Are you ready to uncover the dark and often misunderstood world of prison gangs? What drives nearly 600,000 released inmates each year to seek refuge in a life filled with crime? Let's take a gripping ride as we dive into true crime stories that reveal the intense reality behind the allure of gangs. Featuring exclusive insights from a gang unit officer. Welcome to the Guardian File, where we bring you the raw truth about crime documentaries and the gripping narratives they reveal. In today's episode, we'll expose the complex dynamics of gang culture, the raw footage from body cams and real-life interrogation experiences that showcase the law and crime interplay. Learn how societal issues like immigration and the narratives promoted in platforms like CBS News and the Joe Rogan podcast contribute to the phenomenon. In this documentary, we'll tackle the critical issues about joining a gang and the risks it entails. You'll hear astonishing stories from former members who faced the harsh realities during their time in places like Marcy Correctional Facility and Mule Creek State Prison. Prepare to discover the struggles of overcoming adversity and the prison mindset that entraps many. Ever wonder how gangs maintain their grip on power and control within prisons? Or how communities like those in Stockton, California are losing their battle against gang violence? Stick around as we unveil shocking truths about productivity in gangs that often contradict their supposed chaos. If this topic resonates with you, don't forget to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more enlightening true crime content. And while you're here, check out our other videos that explore the psychological effects of gang life and prison narratives. Stay tuned as we delve deeper into the effects of incarceration on relationships and the efforts of organizations aiming to help ex-gang members reintegrate into society. It's a discussion you won't want to miss.
I don't give a fuck who you are. If you roll in and you're a white boy, you're rolling with the white boys. There was this dude, Bull, from Cocoa County. He was the scariest looking person you've ever met in your motherfucking life. If we put him right here, he would make me look like the prettiest model ever. This motherfucker, I swear he was 6'7", 320 pounds, doing sets of 20 dips, swastikas everywhere. It says Cocoa on here because he's a Cocoa County white boy. He comes to the yard and he's claiming he's AB. He's claiming he's Aryan Brotherhood, and he's claiming he's from the brand. And so the thing is we do a background check and we get word that he's not, and he's just saying that. So he has to be smashed right away, and it's gotta be ugly. So what happens is 4 white boys get put on him, and this dude is fucking massive. If you've ever seen The Scariest Man in a movie, times that by 10. And this kid Eli comes up from the side and he's just dude, it crushed his eye socket.
Put me in a cell, and there was no one there. A few seconds later, come like 2 big Mexicans, man. They had Versace glasses, gold teeth, and I was like, hey, what's up, guys? He's like, who you run with? I said, I don't run with anybody, but you're Hispanic. I said, yeah. He said, get him upstairs, strip him down, check for tattoos.
These are the inmates that are stripping you down.
Yeah, Mexican mafia, man, from California. And so I go up there, and there was some Mexican dude, and you could see his shank, man, sticking out from his sock. They shut the door, and they said, take your boxers off, too. And I'm looking at him, screw you, man, you know, and he pulls his thing up, had this big ass shank, man. I take my boxers off real fast, so I'm standing there butt naked, me and like 5 other dudes there, man. And they said, turn around. They said, you're not with no gang? I said, no. And they said, your paperwork looks good, man. He's like, you have 2 choices. 1, you can run with us, or 2, you can run for the door. I said, you make it pretty easy. I'm with you 100%. They said, good. Get him downstairs and take care.
Not prone out.
But so did you have the experience that when you get to prison, your gang matters less and it's all about the race at that point?
No. Well, no, your gang matter in there too.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's cars in there. You know what I'm saying? I'm from neighborhood Crip.
Right.
West side rolling 30s to the 100s to the east coast to the main streets. So off the back, your hood matters in there too. You know what I'm talking about? You want, as wherever you from, who you run with. You know, if you're a blood.
This guy, young kid, came on the unit and he was mixed. And he looked Mexican. He looked Arab. He was so dark hair, just completely Mexican. His last name was like Rodriguez. He said, my mom's white, my dad's black. I never knew my dad. I grew up in the country. All I know is white people stuff. I don't hang out with those guys. I don't speak Spanish. They're talking cholos, San Antonio gangbanger stuff. I don't know anything about that. I'm a Peckerwood. And I went, oh man, this is a whole problem, because I can check white dudes. White dude can go fight all day. That's nobody's business. Nobody cares. But you look Mexican. And if I go in the cell with you, these dudes over here are gonna have a big problem with that. And he wouldn't back down. I tried to convince him, like, dude, go. And I'd send Mexican mafia over there, talk to this dude. Convince him to sit at y'all's table so we can just avoid this. Nope, wouldn't do it. I said, okay. I talked to the Mexican mafia and I was like, this is what's gotta happen. I have a policy and I have to stick to it. I'm really live or die on this. They talked about it for a while and they came back and they said, do what you gotta
Gangs
do.
in prison in the United States are segregated according to ethnicity. And a lot of it depends on what state you're in. Obviously in California, you have a very strict prison politic, gang banging culture. The white gangs are the Aryan Brotherhood is the big one. With the blacks, it's the Black Guerrilla family, the Bloods, the Crips, and then so many different Hispanic gangs. Kind of the same thing holds true in Oregon. And at Two Rivers, the main sets, we called them sets, were the Aryan Brotherhood, the Hells Angels. With the black guys, it was the Rolling 60s, Crips, and Piru Blood gangs. And it's funny because those are gangs from South Central LA, but over the years they have migrated north to Portland and Seattle, places in the Northwest, to sell drugs. Then they get locked up, and now we have a whole new transplant prison culture in Oregon.
The Guardian File. Today we're diving into a sensitive yet eye-opening topic, joining a gang while in prison. You might think this doesn't concern you, but the reality is nearly 600,000 people are released from federal and state prisons each year. That's a hefty number, and many of them have been part of gangs. So let's explore what it really means to dive into gang culture, especially if you've spent your life away from it. So what's the first thing we need to know? Gangs have been thriving in American prisons since the 1950s or so, and that's not changing anytime soon. In fact, it might shock you to learn that nearly 20% of the prison population belongs to a gang. David Pyru's, a sociology expert, suggests that most gang activity decreases after release, but sometimes that's not the whole picture. Joining a gang often feels like a safety measure. Once behind bars, the world outside flips upside down. If you get thrown into a Texas prison, it's a game of survival. There's a lot of violence. As an inmate, you can quickly go from being a mere prisoner to a target. Imagine walking into a prison yard where the atmosphere feels thick with tension. You're surrounded by individuals who might not think twice about engaging in violence. Suddenly, that label of new guy carries a hefty weight. Not wanting to be seen as weak, many inmates feel the only sensible option is to align themselves with a gang. Let's be real. Prison is no walk in the park. You're surrounded by people you don't know, and your safety isn't guaranteed. So what do many people do? They seek out a pack. In many cases, gang membership offers not just protection, but also a sense of belonging. You might have heard stories from well-known figures like Wes Watson or references from Joe Rogan's podcast about prison life. They talk about fierce loyalty and the bonds formed through shared experiences within prison walls. These bonds often fill the gap left by friends and family outside. But does it come with a price? Absolutely. When entering a gang, you're not just signing up for camaraderie, you're also stepping into a world full of rules and expectations. That's where the manipulation kicks in. Gangs control their members and have an unspoken code that isn't welcoming to outsiders, especially in a place like Marcy Correctional Facility or Mule Creek State Prison. Within these gangs lies a complex structure. Gangs often have defined roles and hierarchies. Just like in any organization, there are leaders, followers, and enforcers. These roles come with responsibilities, and failing to meet them can often result in serious consequences. You're entering a system that thrives on allegiance and loyalty. The stakes keep rising as they test those bonds. So, how do these gangs function? They often maintain their own economies, relying on contraband like cell phones and drugs. It's an underground world, a crime life idle game, if you will. They have codes, constitutions, and even complaint procedures. They don't just regulate themselves, they manage the whole dynamic of prison life, which can sometimes lead to maintaining some order in a chaotic environment. Mechanisms like these create a structured sense of community where members feel they have a role, even if it's an undesirable one. But here's the catch. Not all inmates want to be involved in this life, but the pressure to conform can be overwhelming.
I didn't want to join a gang. They said, hey man, you gotta rock with one of us to be safe. You gotta put in work. And I'm thinking like, fuck no, I don't. What do you mean, bro? Like, I'm just chilling. Like, let's do our time and let's get out. That's the goal here. I told him no, but super respectfully, I was like, listen man, I'm just trying to get my time done. I'm not really trying to put in work for anyone. I'm not like that. He seemed kind of cool about it. I thought like, all right. And then I was alone for a while. You know what I mean? It was about a week and a half. And while I was showering, two people, I heard them come in and I asked what's up. I'm butt ass naked, bro. And one of them turned off the shower, dude. I was mad confused. I thought I was about to like scrap or something, or I thought they came in there to like smoke a cigarette or some shit. And one of them just hits me. I'll be honest, dude. I froze. I fall to the ground and one of them kicked me in the head and I started covering my head up and I felt one get on top of me and they raped me. That really changed my life. I'm screaming, bro. Everyone in the pod can hear me. I'm screaming help. No one came.
Before
They all
you jump in with both feet, think about this. Is it a structured, organized system, or is it a ticking time bomb waiting to go off? There's a delicate balance of power within prison, and especially in overcrowded facilities, gangs can help to keep the peace, or at least their version of it. Consider the gang's control over the income derived from contraband. With authorities unable to eliminate the influx of illegal goods, gangs step in to fill that vacuum. They assert power over what enters and leaves, creating a semblance of stability despite the chaos surrounding them. Now, let's discuss the elephant in the room. What are the risks involved? You're likely going to have to prove yourself, and that can mean engaging in violence or other unsavory activities. Not everyone is cut out for this kind of life. Joining a gang can lead you to dangerous situations, including further entrenchment in criminal activities.
In prison, there's a cost to joining a gang. Cost is your virgin butthole.
Remember, the expectations vary widely based on the gang. Some require that you commit acts of violence against those seen as rivals. Some gangs may even require members to partake in drug smuggling or theft to prove loyalty.
In prison, the investigators were always down on whoever was holding the dope or holding the cell phone, so usually the guys that owned it would have somebody else hold it for him. I knew one guy who insisted on keeping his phone 24/7 even after they started running in on him. His justification was that he could hide it better than anybody else because he'd been cheeking things for years. Basically, he'd built his butt muscles and dexterity up to the point that he could slide a phone or a bag of dope or whatever he had in there and then still squat and cough without it falling out. And I'll be damned if they didn't run in on him 2 or 3 times that I know for sure he had the phone and they never caught him. Though one of the scariest stories was when a guy was holding a bunch of dope for somebody else and one of the balloons burst inside of him. His cellie came back to the cell to find him laying on the bed and unresponsive, and he didn't know whether to call medical or not because he knew he had all the dope. They went in there and shook him and beat on his chest, and thankfully his heart and his breathing never stopped, so he came back around. But that was a sign of just how insane addiction is, because he was only holding that dope because he got it.
Not meeting these expectations can result in severe consequences, even leading to violence against you. It's not uncommon for ex-gang members to struggle with reintegration into society. Once you're out of prison, old ties can pull you back in. This link is strong, especially if you return to a neighborhood rife with gang activity. Just look at Stockton, California, where violence continues to plague communities, often tied back to gang affiliations. As we've learned from crime documentaries and discussions on platforms like Channel 9 and CBS News, those who join gangs sometimes become permanent members of that Lifestyle. It's hard to break free. Here's the breakdown. Joining the gang has positives and negatives. On the positive side, you get protection, a support system, and in some cases, a sense of family. But the negatives loom large too. You risk incarceration, violence, and eventually a criminal record that can haunt you forever. Let's not forget the impact of societal perception. Individuals from gang culture are often stigmatized, impacting their chances of finding employment and acceptance in communities after their release. Many employers see a gang affiliation as a red flag, which can effectively bar you from legitimate job opportunities. As our societal awareness grows, thanks to movements like Stop Gun Violence and various gang prevention programs, the narrative is shifting. We see stories of redemption like those anecdotes shared by Sean Atwood or in platforms like Beyond Lockdown. These second chance stories show that it's possible to break free from the grip of gang life. However, graduating from that life is easier said than done. Organizations like gang prevention programs often emphasize therapy, employment training, and community reintegration. Still, for many, skepticism about how to navigate life after prison becomes a reality as they wrestle with their past experiences. Let's talk about the long-term consequences. Many who join gangs find themselves facing criminal charges that follow them into their post-prison lives. This can create a cyclical effect of crime and punishment that draws them back into the system. Constant legal troubles can make it nearly impossible to find stable work or housing, leading them back to their former habits. And is a reality many ex-gang members know all too well. The streets that once felt like a second home might start to feel like a prison. Gangs become a bitter reminder of what they fought so hard to leave behind, yet familiarity pulls them back in. The emotional ramifications cannot be underestimated. Many who leave gang life grapple with feelings of guilt, remorse, and sadness for the lives they cannot easily fix or relationships they cannot repair. The trauma of prison life combined with the impacts of gang involvement haunt these individuals, not allowing for an easily paved road toward healing. The impact of gangs stretches into communities, disrupting the flow of daily life. Police officers often have to grapple with gang presence and activity as while they try to ensure neighborhood safety. Stockton Police Department, for example, dedicates resources and manpower to combat crime linked with gangs. On the other hand, there is often skepticism about the police responses. Many communities affected by gang violence see law enforcement as part of the problem rather than the solution. The cycle of mistrust can lead to a breakdown of communication and potential solutions to combat gang influence. Police activity becomes synonymous with public safety discussions. Many turn to true crime stories to highlight these issues, revealing real-world examples of the struggle between gang culture and efforts to restore peace. Platforms and networks like CNN highlight these struggles, portraying a complex narrative about how communities deal with gang violence. So, what's the verdict? Should you join a gang in prison after living a normal life? The choice lies in understanding the reality behind gang commitments. While a gang may seem like a lifeline in a chaotic prison environment filled with Texas violence, the long-term implications often lead to a cyclical nature of crime and punishment. In the eyes of many police departments, both in cities across the U.S. and even discussed in news today, gangs remain a persistent issue. Crime theory suggests that understanding what drives individuals to these groups is essential in tackling challenges in our criminal justice system. Breaking down these stereotypes can allow for a conversation about the underlying issues pushing individuals toward gangs. It's essential to acknowledge the humanity behind the statistics. Understanding the reality of gang life exposes the raw humanity behind the cold statistics. Life inside those walls is complex and filled with tough choices.
Meet Tommy Silverstein. He was born in 1952, and at the age of 19, he went to prison for armed robbery. 4 years later, he was paroled, but was soon arrested with his father and cousin for 3 armed robberies with a take of about $53,000 in today's money. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison, and this is where things took a bad turn. In 1981, Silverstein and another inmate killed a member of an opposing gang called the DC Blacks, and they each received an additional life sentence. While Silverstein was on trial, the national leader of the DC Blacks was transferred from another prison into the control unit that Silverstein was in. From the moment he arrived, he was trying to kill Silverstein, but ultimately Silverstein killed him and therefore received another life sentence. Finally, in 1983, Silverstein did the unthinkable and killed a corrections officer who had allegedly harassed him, placing Silverstein in solitary confinement with no human contact for the remaining 36 years of his life.
As we dig deeper into the inside story of gang life in prisons, we should remain aware of the hope that exists for those who wish to break free from its grip. As we close today's episode, we challenge you to think critically about the decisions made by those within prison systems and to be amazed by the strength of human resilience. There's a lot more to this dialogue than what meets the eye, and it's crucial to remain educated and open-minded to foster positive change. Thank you for joining us today on The Guardian File. We'll see you next time for more insights into the world of crime and justice.